Well, hello. I'd like to welcome you to another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks that I've been using throughout the week. So, let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, what are you reading right now? I have one serious topic I'm going to bring up at the end, but overall I just felt like light, fluffy reading type stuff. So, what are you reading? Let us know down in the comments. Alright, so these are the pens I've been using this week from left to right. I have a Toes Penkala Mirna from Croatia. I have a Nakaya Neo Standard Writer from Japan. I have a Pilot Custom 823, also from Japan. Waterman Carène from France. Pilot Custom 823 from Japan. Platinum 3776 from Japan. A Senator, air quotes, Cummerbund, because I don't know the model number, from Germany. And a Waterman Allure, probably from France. I don't know where they're made. So, as always, I'll be doing my writing sample in this seafood-flavored Cognitive Surplus Journal. Alright, so my first pen is this Toes Penkala Mirna. I said Croatia. Back then it was part of Yugoslavia. This is a vintage pen. Just a tiny bit of branding on the cap band, and that is it. And what an attractive barrel. I think this is just a beautiful barrel. Don't know what you call that kind of nib, but that's what it has. One thing I have discovered with this pen in owning it is when I first ink it up, it needs about a day before it actually starts writing correctly. I don't know if it needs to saturate the feed or what's happening, but it does take a little time. So it's a Toes Penkala. It doesn't matter what ink I put in it. It has a fine point nib. The ink that I have in it this time is Rohrer and Klingner. Alt-goldgrün. Going for broke on this one. I'm trying to run this ink out. I love this ink. And I plan to have more to buy it again, but for now, trying to run out some color families, and that's what I want to run out. I have several inks in this family, just none of them as nice as this one. This pen, if I don't hold it perfectly in line, does go a little haywire. But there you go. My next pen, I see I need to change my entry on the video description, is this beautiful Nakaya Decapod Twist. I did a video this week comparing this to the Platinum 3776, because this is basically a Platinum 3776 nib. I am told that they tune these more. I don't know that. That's just what I've been told. It's definitely wetter than my Platinum 3776. Has a soft, fine nib. And the ink in it is Akkerman. Groenmarkt Smaragd. Which has something to do with a vegetable market or something. I don't speak Dutch. You might have to go to Stephen Brown to get the correct translation and the correct pronunciation. It's a nice kind of dark green. I like the Akkerman bottles, but I've never been super impressed with the inks. As far as colors, I mean, the writing is fine, but the colors, whatever. You know, the bottles, this is an empty one a viewer sent me, has a marble in it that helps hold the ink in the top so you can fill it up here, and then you have the rest of your ink down here. So, kind of clever, although it's easy to lose the marble. Don't lose your marbles. You might have noticed that this was unscrewed already. This is my Pilot Custom 823 in the smoke finish. It's actually a gray, kind of a translucent gray, but it's so dark it's hard to tell unless you hold it up to the light. But anyway, it has a broad nib in it. So again, it's a Pilot Custom 823, with a broad nib. The ink in it is Pelikan Edelstein Smoky Quartz. Of course, this pen is a wonderful smooth writer. With the broad nib, it's not suited to everyday type of writing, but I do enjoy it for letters and such. I will concede that this isn't the most inspiring color to put in it, but you know what? I'm using up color families, and right now I am darn well going to use up this brown. And I got smart, you know, I'm going to broaden my color families a little bit just so you can get some variety in the inks you see in these pens each week. This pen is a treasure. This is a beautiful, oh come on, there we go, beautiful Waterman Carène. Almost empty. With a nice inlaid nib. I actually like this ink. It's a special... Oh, I think I did the thingy the wrong way. No, I did. I don't know. It goes one way or the other. Okay, I think it goes from the left down. Anyway, it's a broad nib, and the ink in it is Lamy bronze. A special edition ink brought out for a special edition pen. Which seems to be Lamy's thing with the Safari and All-Star models. And, you know, I guess I'm not big on, I want one of every finish. I could be one of those, I want one of every nib people, but, the different finishes don't excite me too much. Then I have Pilot Custom 823 in the amber finish. You can see I am working my way through it. I'm thinking one or two more weeks and it will be empty. This pen holds a gob of ink. But this is the last of this ink. So that's pretty exciting. So this is a bottle that someone sent me of Montblanc black. I don't know which black, because apparently they have several black inks, but it just says black on the bottle, so that's what I'm going with. It's been an okay ink. It doesn't excite me one way or the other. It is exciting to use up another bottle of ink, because that's kind of been my theme the last few years, is let's use up some bottles of ink, and this is one of those bottles I wanted to use up. Actually, the person who sent me the bottle sent me a only partially filled bottle, so, you know, using it up wasn't as hard as it seemed. When I use up this ink, I am going to return to my beloved Lamy 2000, spend some quality time with that. Even though I usually give it summers off, I haven't had my spring with it, so I deserve some time with that pen. Alright, this is the Platinum 3776. With a soft, fine nib. One thing that several viewers noted in my rodeo where I compared it with the Nakaya is that this one can write very fine. It's partly a function of the ink. Other inks aren't quite like this, but it is definitely capable of more line variation than the Nakaya. The ink in it is Noodler's. Now, I haven't bought ink in years. So, whatever your feelings on Noodler's, I bought this long before the controversy. And doggone it, I'm going to use it up. I don't care. It is actually very attractive colors. Nathan Tardif does have Nathan Tardif has some very nice colors. Unfortunately, sometimes he labels his bottles possibly without due diligence and due test marketing before releasing them. I think he got burned hardcore recently when he had a label that was quite anti-Semitic. So I'm hoping he learned his lesson. This pen is a vintage Senator, probably from the 1960s or 1970s. I used to call it Senator Cummerbund because it's wearing this, and I can't find model numbers for these. I don't know if nobody collects Senator pens or what's going on. One nice thing about this pen... Oh, come on, autofocus. Work with me. There we go. One nice thing about this pen is it has one of those vintage Bach gold nibs. See why I like them? Isn't that cool? We'll put quotes here. Cummerbund. And the ink in it is Rohrer and Klingner. One thing people who buy vintage discover, some don't like this, is the vintage pens tend to be a lot slimmer than their modern pens. They also tend to have much smaller nibs, which distresses some people. To me, it's just a trait of vintage pens, but some people are just like, oh, it's so skinny. I'm thinking the color looks a little off, so I'm wondering if I didn't do such a perfect job the last time I cleaned this pen out. When I don't do such a perfect job, that usually shows up in lighter colored inks like this one. And finally, the Waterman Allure, which is a very alluring pen. And I mean that sincerely. I think it's, not, wow, look at that beautiful pen, but, it's attractive and it writes well. This could be a daily writer. And I really haven't seen the fountain pen reviewers talking about it. I'm not sure why not. Because it is a very good pen. My ink, again, Noodler's. And again, I haven't bought ink in many years. So I am darn well going to use up what I have. I don't care what you think about Noodler's. Back when I bought this, he was just controversial. And this isn't one of his great colors, I'll be honest. I'm not super thrilled with this one. It's okay, it's just nothing special. And this one, if it's on, a paper with a higher clay content, can take forever to dry. Luckily, with this pen, I don't really have that problem, but if I put it in something with a broader nib, watch out, especially if it's a really wet nib. Alright, so Toes Penkala Mirna from Croatia, Nakaya Decapod Twist, Pilot Custom 823, Waterman Carène, Pilot Custom 823 again, but with a fine nib, Platinum 3776, Senator Cummerbund, and a Waterman Allure. I'm not sure which pen or pens I will use up by next week, other than I'm pretty sure the Carène will be used up because I'm on the last gasp of ink with that pen. So those are the pens that I've been using throughout the week. Like I mentioned in there, I'm trying to use up ink, but at the same time I also need to keep the variety for you guys going. So, I'm broadening, even though it's going to mean it takes longer to use them up, I'm broadening my horizons for what inks I'm putting in pens, just so I have variety each week. I don't want you saying, oh look, there's Alt-goldgrün for the 54th week in a row. So, I need to tear it up a little. But it's also kind of fun seeing these different inks now that I'm focusing on just a few in different pens and how they take on different characters. Or in the case of that blue Mare, how it took on whatever I didn't adequately clean out of that Senator pen. So that was fun. So like I said, I'm trying to not do deep dives into topics in these pens and uses, but they are kind of chatty videos, so sometimes it's serious topics, sometimes it's not. I'm mostly going to talk about books today, and then I have a little more serious topic at the end, and it may turn into a driving video, or I may decide I've already done a driving video on it and let it go. But anyway, one of my big projects this fall and winter was to read Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series. That's a 14-book series. There's a lot there. And, all my other reading just got set aside for that. And I enjoyed it. It was very immersive. I'd like to reread it, not this year or next year, but, maybe in 2 or 3 years, when I maybe I can spend more time. I'd like to do a book review of each of the books in the series. I've done the first one, whose name escapes me at the moment, but it doesn't really matter. Now that I've read the whole thing, I can see more connections between the books that I wouldn't have seen as I was going through them one by one. So, anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I said, well, I'm going to write up my review of the overall series, and then, I'll do the individual books as I have time. And I was writing, and as I got to the analysis of my 8th character, I said, whoa! That's not an overview. That's getting really particular and specialized, and there are channels that do that. The Dusty Wheel, I think, or Dusty Road, one or the other. The Nameless. There's a couple of channels that just really, they exist to delve into Robert Jordan's 14-book universe. I'm not that channel. I enjoyed the books, but I read other stuff too, and I don't know that I want to do a bunch of videos really delving in on it. I mean, they're going to get 15 videos, including the overview, so not enough, but we'll see. But anyway, so I rewrote my overview, condensed it a lot. My brilliant analysis of the different characters is just going to have to go into hibernation, and I don't know, it may pop out. There's just a lot there, so look forward to that. I'm going to be somewhere else this weekend, and I might try to see if I can find a good spot outdoors and talk about that book series. we'll just have to see what happens. But I really, really, really want to talk about it, so there is that. 25% on my camera, so I better get talking here. So anyway, I look forward to a Wheel of Time overview. If, failing that outdoor thingy, look forward to me filming it here. But expect it on Monday. I have recently started reading Tony Hillerman's novels, the Leaphorn and Chee novels, where he talks about... It's a detective series set on a Navajo reservation in New Mexico. First book was very good. Second book was just kind of... Third book, I'm only a few pages in, so I don't have an opinion on it. But actually, I talked to the local librarian, because that's where I'm getting the books, and she said there have been a lot of requests for the books. And the fact that I came in and requested them, she said, you know what, I finally decided just to buy them. And so they are now on the shelves at our local library. As is Wheel of Time, by the way. And the next book I want to mention, but before I get to the next book, I just want to say the Tony Hillerman's novels, he evokes a lot of the culture, including some minority cultures within a minority. And I really appreciate that. Some of the details about construction of the pueblos and some of the religious practices. It's just very interesting. Leaphorn is not super three-dimensional yet. It's mentioned he has a wife, but she never appears on page. The novels are entirely about his investigation. You don't go outside that. But at the same time, that's kind of comforting. It's... Yeah, he's a real person, but we're interested in his investigation, not so much his life. Because I've read series, too, where you spend too much time on the personal life, and you just, I don't care, just get on with the story. So, well, I think it works. The Amazon came out with a series, which I don't remember the name right now, but I did watch it. I thought it was good. Very violent. But yeah, it was good. I felt like the first novel especially had some things in it that were used in that TV series. And yet a lot of things that were not. So I don't know if the TV series maybe combined several books. After I've read the whole series, maybe I'll know. But anyway. The actor who plays Leaphorn in the TV series on Amazon is really good. I have seen him in several different works, and I have thought that he deserves to be like the star of his own series. So I'm glad he has that. So, anyways, Zahn, I'm sorry, I gotta read his last name because I don't remember it. McLarnon, just a very good very good actor. I'm thinking, I know he's been in a few things. The only one that's coming to my mind right now is Westworld and what was the other thing? It was a detective series set in Wyoming. Not coming to me. Doggone it. But anyway, he was in Westworld. I had to look. The Amazon series is called Dark Winds. And let's just click here, because the name of that series is going to come to me, and I'm going to make Longmire. He was in Longmire. He was in Midnight Texas, which was just a silly show, but he was in that. He was in Fargo. I'm seeing a lot of things listed here I don't recognize. Apparently he was in Castle. I feel like he was in a movie, too. With Mel Gibson. And boy, oh boy, that movie's name is not coming to me. Darn. Oh, it says he was in Murphy Brown, too. As man number 3. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he was in something with Mel Gibson, some kind of a Western. And and I should have written all this down before filming this, but I didn't. So there you go. Yeah, I'm not going to find it, so we'll just move on. But anyway, the short version of this is I'm very happy to see he got a series of his own. His not Michael Chee, sorry. Oh my gosh, I said that. Jim Chee, his in the books, he hasn't appeared yet as far as I've read, but I know Jim Chee actually was a different character who had his own books, and then they came together eventually. The TV series made the choice to put them together from the start, and Jim Chee is kind of a subordinate to him. The actor, not one I knew. I've never seen him before. Kiowa Gordon. I thought he did a good job in the role, and admittedly not knowing what that role is supposed to be because I haven't read those books yet. I'm just kind of paging through the things he's been in and not seeing anything I've ever watched. Yeah. So, Dark Winds will be the first thing I've seen him in. I've been curious about Reservation Dogs, so I may watch that at some point. But anyway, just an interesting series of books, and I will be curious to read the rest of them. So there you go. So expect to start seeing some reviews of that soon. So fun fact, I was actually on a bus with Science Olympiad going to Fargo and then back from Fargo. It's 6 hours one way, 6 hours the other way. It's a long flippin' trip. So I read 2 Leaphorn and Chee novels, and I read Susan Cain's Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. This is a book I've wanted to read, and I found it in my local library. So I read it on the bus, and I'm going to do a video on that soon also. That was interesting. You know, I think a lot of people, especially when I started looking at other reviews, I think a lot of people read it trying to find themselves in it. And one of the things I think they miss in the book is that we're not all one or the other. We're not all introvert or all extrovert. If you met me in person, I'm not this. I'm a lot quieter in person. I put on this act for the camera, and it's very similar to the act I put on in my classroom. I wouldn't call myself exactly an introvert. I'm just more of a... I'd rather listen to other people than talk myself. I get enough of that teaching, and otherwise I just kind of like to quietly sit in the background and leave me alone. But that was an interesting book, just about different ways people react to each other. And she explored a couple where the guy wanted to have a party every week where he'd have people over every Friday, and she's just like, can't we just cuddle on the couch and watch a movie? And they had to find a way to work together. Different negotiation styles where some people are very bombastic and others are much more reserved. I think in this country, the United States, we tend to give a lot of respect to the more bombastic, more assertive personalities, even if what's underneath that is nonsense or stupidity. Just the presentation of "I am assertive" is enough for some people. I mean, we had a president not too long ago who that was his big strength, is he was very good at pretending to be assertive, and as much as he whined and cried about people attacking him. And sometimes people don't think instantly on their feet. Sometimes people want to sit back and collect information first rather than spout off. And I think sometimes in our culture we forget that, hey, sometimes some thinking is important, sometimes some introspection, sometimes some nuance. Maybe I don't want you leaping to an instant decision. I mean, life or death, yeah, leap to an instant decision. Don't sit back and think, okay, do I pull that kid out of the street or, oh, but what if that car comes too fast and hits me? Rescue the kid. But outside life and death situations, I think the ability to think tends to be undervalued. And I think we overvalue the show. So I will talk about that. That'll be an upcoming book review. And the other book I just wanted to mention, because tonight, I'm filming this way too late at night because I discovered something. Thank you, Quinn. I think his name is Howard Quinn. But anyway, I discovered there is a TV show based on the books, or on the book by Cixin Liu, The Three-Body Problem. It is Chinese. As far as I can tell, it is made in China. It is very faithful to the book. And I mean very faithful, down to the dialogue. They're basically acting out the book. But I think having read the book, I'm appreciating getting this other dimension of it. I know that Netflix spent, I think it was $200 million buying the rights to this book. So I will be curious to see what Netflix does with it. I'm going to guess something different than a very religiously by-the-book presentation. But anyway, it's been interesting to see. You have to be comfortable with subtitles. So I'll put a link to it down in the video description. At some point, I'd like to review The Three-Body Problem. The book, I mean. I feel like I need to read that a second time. And actually watching this may help me too. There's just so much there that it's one of those books, I think the whole series, but it's one of those that you've got to reread to really get everything out of it. So, kind of like The Wheel of Time, I'm going to have to reread it before I review it. It is deep and just full of ideas. And doesn't necessarily have a U.S. perspective. I mean, the main characters are all Chinese. But very different. The main character has a family, but you hardly ever see them. Most of the book is about his investigation or how other people got tied into the story. And the families and the backgrounds, unless they are tied directly to the story, are just kind of pushed to the side. And I haven't read too much Chinese literature, so I don't know if that's a Chinese thing or just this author, but a bit different from the American style. And I do realize that I was just talking about the Leaphorn and Chee novels earlier. And yeah, kind of like that. So, anyway, look forward to my reviewing the book eventually, but if you'd like to watch the series, it's on YouTube. And as far as I can tell, it's legal, which is why I don't mind sharing it. So, on to one serious topic. I'm a teacher. I teach in a public school. As one viewer noted when I wore a certain shirt, I did actually attend a religious college. I wouldn't do that again, but it is what it is. And I had a good time there. I just learned a few things. But anyway, in Texas right now, there is a bill to require the display of the Ten Commandments in every Texas classroom. By Ten Commandments, I mean from the Bible. And they're specific in this bill because, as you may or may not know, there's several versions of the Ten Commandments floating around. There's the Catholic version, the Judaic version, the Protestant version. Oh, and there's a version that the Bible itself calls the Ten Commandments, which talks about things like boiling a kid's meat in the mother's milk. Little things like that. So I did a driving video several years ago on the Ten Commandments, so I'm going to link to that in the video description. But the point is, Texas, what are you doing? You are a diverse state. You're more diverse than my state. You have a lot of students there who are not Christians. They might be atheists, they might be Hindus, they might be Islamic. You've got the world of religion out there in your schools, especially in your big cities. And you're going to slap all those kids who aren't Christian and a bunch of the kids who are Christian but use a slightly different version of the Ten Commandments, slap them right across the face and say, no, you're going to worship our God, and our God is going to be in your face in every single room. Well, that's wrong. And knowing what's going on in Texas right now politically, I'm very much afraid that this dumbass bill is going to become a law. And of course someone's going to take it to the Supreme Court, which ruled on a case like this back in the 1980s in, I think it was Kentucky, and said, no, you can't display the Ten Commandments in a classroom. That's an endorsement of a specific religion, and we are not, as government entities, supposed to do that. But I'm kind of afraid with our dumbass Supreme Court that we have right now they might just say, screw that, we're put up the Ten Commandments. The only possible saving grace in it is a lot of them are Catholic, and that's not the version of the Ten Commandments Texas wants to post. So maybe they'll recognize that, ooh, not such a good idea. I don't know, but it's just forcing one religion into your face. For what? What actual educational goal are you accomplishing? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Sorry, Hindus, who have a totally different whole pantheon of gods before that one. That is so unwelcoming. And in our current political climate, I'm afraid they're going to get away with it. I feel like we're at kind of a tipping point in the United States, and I've felt that stupid things are happening before, but I mentioned before I want to do a driving video about 2022, 2023, and some of the craziness that's gone on there. This is another piece of it. How long until us normal people can stand up and say, no, you crazies go back and crawl under your rocks? We've had book bannings, we've had absolute hatred of trans kids and trans adults in some of these states, including mine. We've had attacks on the LGBT community. I had somebody tell me that, well, the LGB, it should just be LGB. The T's can fight it out for themselves, just like the LGBs did. You don't know history. There's attacks on different races. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. It's just amazing how certain forces are trying to force us backwards into a more ignorant time. And I just keep hoping there's going to be a backlash to it. Again, I keep hoping us normies can say, no, stop. But I don't know. What's it going to take for people to say, no, I don't like what you're doing, and yeah, I prefer the other party don't be in power, but you know what? You're crazy, and I'm not going to vote for you. So yeah, 10 Commandments in schools. Tell me that is not the establishment of a religion by government. No, it's historical because it's a historical document. What about the Magna Carta? there are all kinds of historical documents that we're ignoring. No, we're going to do the religious one. So, yeah, it's pretty transparent what they're doing. And, I would encourage you and your normie friends to get out there and vote the crazies out. So, anyway, on that happy note, I want to thank you for watching. And if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And most of this was about books. What are you reading right now? Like I said, I'm reading the Leaphorn and Chee novels. I forgot to mention, I'm reading Philip Hensher's The Missing Ink also, which was loaned to me by Mr. Pierre Gustafson himself. And the 10 Commandments in Texas. What are your feelings on that? So let us know down in the comments. So I want to thank you for watching. And talk to you later. Bye-bye.